Vou criar
It's
essa
getting
história
cold.
com
We should go.
exatamente
I know.
300
Just a moment.
300
Okay.
palavras.
But not too long.
Promise.
Título, 89
You look so beautiful right
caracteres.
now.
I feel
A
so
cold
loved with
billionaire
you.
sees
Always.
his pregnant ex freezing at
Thank you for
Christmas
joining us.
outside.
We've
One
made significant
secret melts.
progress and look forward to sharing
Hello,
more details
everyone,
soon.
and welcome back to Romance Rewind Stories.
You look absolutely beautiful.
Before we dive
So do
into
you.
today's
And look at our little
incredible
one.
story, I have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying these heartwarming tales, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. It's quick, it's free, and it's the best way to support us in bringing you more emotional romance stories. And here's something I'd love to know. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing our amazing community from around the world. Oh, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us grow and reach more people who love these kinds of tales. Now let's get into today's story. A cold billionaire sees his pregnant ex freezing at Christmas. Outside, one secret melts him and changes everything. December 23rd in Seattle was brutally cold. Caspian Vale stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse office, looking down at the city blanketed in snow, watching last-minute Christmas shoppers hurry through the streets bundled in expensive coats and scarves. From 40 stories up, they looked like ants scurrying through a winter wonderland that was beautiful from a distance and miserable up close. Caspian had built Vale Industries from nothing into a tech empire worth $9 billion. At 36, he was powerful, wealthy, and by every objective measure successful beyond most people's wildest dreams. He was also alone. By choice. By design. Relationships were distractions. Emotions were weaknesses. Love was a liability he couldn't afford in the ruthless world of high-stakes business. That's what he'd told himself when he'd ended things with Winter Ashford 6 months ago. She'd wanted more time, more commitment, more of him than he was willing to give. So he'd ended it cleanly, definitively, without room for ambiguity or false hope. "It's not working," he'd said in his office. The same place where he closed million-dollar deals with the same emotional detachment. "I need to focus on the company. You deserve someone who can give you more than I can. We're done." Winter had looked at him with those remarkable amber eyes, and for a moment he'd thought she might cry or argue or beg him to reconsider. Instead, she'd simply nodded and said, "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Caspian. I really do." Then she'd walked out of his office and his life without looking back. For 6 months, Caspian had convinced himself he'd made the right choice. The company was thriving. His schedule was completely under his control. There were no emotional complications, no obligations, no one asking him to choose between his work and them. He'd achieved exactly what he'd wanted. So why did he still feel that hollow ache in his chest every time he thought about Winter? Caspian's assistant knocked on his door. "Mr. Vale, your car is ready. The Christmas gala at the Fairmont starts in an hour." Right. The annual Vale Industries Christmas Gala. An evening of networking disguised as holiday cheer, where Caspian would make small talk with investors and shake hands with business partners and pretend to enjoy himself. Caspian grabbed his coat, a custom cashmere overcoat that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and headed down to the parking garage where his driver waited with the Bentley. The drive to the Fairmont took them through downtown Seattle, past decorated storefronts and Christmas lights, and crowds of people doing last-minute shopping. Caspian was reviewing emails on his phone, barely paying attention to the world outside, when the car slowed to navigate around pedestrians in a crosswalk. That's when he saw her, Winter Ashford, standing outside a small cafe, looking at the menu board posted in the window. She was wearing a thin coat that Caspian recognized from when they dated, inadequate for the current temperature. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she was shivering visibly. But that wasn't what made Caspian's heart stop. What made his heart stop was the very obvious, very visible pregnancy beneath her coat. Winter was pregnant, heavily pregnant, maybe 7 or 8 months based on her size. Caspian's mind raced, doing the math. They'd broken up 6 months ago. If Winter was 7 or 8 months pregnant now, that meant the baby was his. "Stop the car," Caspian said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "Sir, we're in the middle of—" "Stop the car." The driver pulled over hastily. Caspian threw open the door and stepped out into the freezing December night, not bothering to close it behind him as he crossed the street toward Winter. She was looking at the menu board, one hand resting protectively on her stomach, clearly trying to decide if she could afford whatever was inside. Up close, Caspian could see how thin she'd gotten, everywhere except her belly. Her face was gaunt, her cheekbones sharp, dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted and cold and alone. "Winter," Caspian said. She turned around and the color drained from her face. "Caspian, what are you—" "You're pregnant." It wasn't a question. Winter's hand moved instinctively to her stomach in a protective gesture. "Yes." "Is it mine?" For a moment, Winter just stared at him. Then she laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You think I'd be standing outside a cafe trying to decide if I can afford a $4 coffee, if I had any other source of support? Yes, Caspian, the baby is yours. Congratulations." Caspian felt like he'd been punched. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. I called you 2 weeks after you broke up with me. You sent my call to voicemail. I called again the next day, same thing. I sent you 3 emails asking you to call me back. You never responded, so I stopped trying." Caspian vaguely remembered those calls and emails. He'd been in the middle of a major acquisition, working 18-hour days, and he'd assumed Winter was trying to get back together. He'd ignored them deliberately, thinking it was kinder to make a clean break. "I didn't know," he said weakly. "Would it have mattered? You made it very clear that I was a distraction you couldn't afford. I didn't think adding a baby to the equation would suddenly change your priorities." Winter pulled her thin coat tighter around herself. "Look, I have to go. I'm freezing and I need to get home before the buses stop running." "You're taking the bus? In this weather? While pregnant?" "Not all of us have private drivers and Bentleys, Caspian. Some of us take public transportation." "Where do you live? I'll drive you." "I don't need your help." "Winter, you're freezing. You're pregnant with my child. Please just let me drive you home." When she hesitated, Caspian added, "Please, you can hate me the entire drive if you want, but please don't stand out here in the cold just to prove a point." Winter looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. "Fine, but only because my feet hurt and I can't feel my fingers." Edine, Caspian's driver, looked shocked when Caspian helped a very pregnant woman into the Bentley, but he was professional enough not to comment. Winter gave an address that made Caspian's stomach sink. A neighborhood he knew was rough, the kind of place where buildings had barred windows and people didn't walk alone at night. "You're living there?" Caspian couldn't keep the horror out of his voice. "It's what I can afford on a barista's salary. Believe me, it's not my first choice, but when you're 7 months pregnant and working minimum wage, you don't have a lot of options." "Why didn't you tell me you needed help?" "I tried to tell you I was pregnant. You ignored me. What was I supposed to do, show up at your office and beg? I have some pride left, Caspian, even if I don't have much else." The drive to Winter's apartment took 20 minutes. When they pulled up in front of a run-down building with graffiti on the walls and a flickering streetlight, Caspian felt sick. "You're living here, alone, while pregnant." "Yes, this isn't safe." "I know it's not safe. You think I don't know that. But it's all I can afford, so it's where I live. Thank you for the ride. I can see myself up." Winter reached for the door handle. "Wait, can I come up? Just for a minute. I need to see where you're living." Winter looked like she wanted to refuse, but exhaustion won out. Fine, but it's not much. The building was worse inside than outside. The elevator was broken, which meant Winter had to climb 3 flights of stairs while 7 months pregnant. Caspian watched her pause halfway up, breathless and clearly in pain, and felt guilt crash over him like a wave. This was his fault. All of it. He'd gotten Winter pregnant and then abandoned her without even knowing it. And now she was living in a building that should probably be condemned, working minimum wage, struggling just to survive. Winter's apartment was a studio, one room that served as bedroom, living room and kitchen all at once. It was clean but sparse. A single bed in one corner, a small table with 1 chair, a tiny kitchenette with a hot plate. No decorations except a small, pitiful Christmas tree on the table, the kind you could buy at a drugstore for $5. "This is where you're living," Caspian said, looking around in horror. "Yes, I know it's not a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Sound, but it's mine, and it's warm and dry, and the rent is paid through next month." Winter sat down heavily on the bed. "You can go now. You've seen where I live. You've satisfied your curiosity. Consider your conscience cleared." "My conscience is not cleared. Winter, you can't raise a baby here. This apartment is barely big enough for 1 person, let alone a newborn. There's no room for a crib. I have a bassinet. It's in the closet. I bought it at a thrift store for $20. The baby will sleep beside my bed until she's big enough to need more space." Caspian's heart stopped. "She? We're having a daughter." Something softened in Winter's expression. "Yes, a girl. I found out at my ultrasound last month." "You went to the ultrasound alone?" "Yes." "Have you been going to all your appointments alone?" "Yes, Caspian. That's what happens when the father of your child tells you that you're a distraction he can't afford and then ignores your attempts to tell him you're pregnant. You go to appointments alone. You figure things out alone. You prepare to raise a child alone." Winter's voice cracked. "Now please go. I'm tired and I just want to sleep. I'm not leaving you here. You don't have a choice. This is my apartment. I'm asking you to leave. Then I'm asking you to come with me, just for tonight. It's Christmas Eve tomorrow. You shouldn't be alone in this place. Come stay at my penthouse. Just until after the holiday, please." "Why? So you can feel better about yourself? So you can pretend you're not the man who abandoned his pregnant ex-girlfriend?" "Because it's freezing, and your apartment barely has heat, and you're 7 months pregnant, and I can't—" Caspian stopped, his voice breaking. "I can't leave you here, Winter. I can't walk away knowing you're in this place, alone, struggling. Please, come with me." Winter looked at him for a long moment. Caspian could see the internal battle playing out on her face. Pride versus practicality, anger versus exhaustion. "Just for the holiday," she finally said. 2 days. And then I come back here and you leave me alone unless you actually want to be involved in our daughter's life. I won't have you showing up out of guilt and then disappearing again when it gets inconvenient." "I won't disappear, I promise. Winter, I'm so sorry for all of it." "Sorry doesn't pay bills, Caspian, but right now I'm too tired to argue. Let me pack a bag." Caspian's penthouse was exactly what Winter expected. Massive, expensive, and completely devoid of any warmth or personality. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Sound. Modern furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. A kitchen that probably hadn't been used for actual cooking in years. "The guest room is through here," Caspian said, leading her down a hallway. "It has its own bathroom. Take whatever you need. I'll have my housekeeper bring you some clothes tomorrow." "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's basic hospitality. Winter, please, just let me help." Winter was too exhausted to argue. She took a shower in the guest bathroom, her first hot shower in weeks, because the water heater in her building was broken, and changed into the soft pajamas Caspian had laid out for her. When she emerged, Caspian had food waiting. Real food. Not the ramen and canned soup she'd been surviving on. Roasted chicken, vegetables, fresh bread, fruit. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" Caspian asked, watching her eat. "I eat." "That's not an answer." "I eat enough. The baby is healthy. That's what matters." "You're not healthy. Winter, you're skin and bones, except for your belly. When was your last doctor's appointment?" Winter set down her fork. 2 weeks ago. Everything was fine. The baby is measuring perfectly. I've been working extra shifts and I guess I haven't been eating as much as I should." "Why are you working extra shifts?" "Because babies are expensive. Because I need to save money for when I can't work after she's born. Because I don't have anyone else to rely on." Winter's voice broke. "Because I'm terrified, Caspian. I'm terrified of having this baby alone. I'm terrified of not being able to afford diapers and formula. I'm terrified of being a terrible mother because I'm barely keeping myself afloat." Caspian moved around the table and knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "You're not alone anymore. I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I've been the worst possible partner and father. But Winter, I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Let me help. Let me be there for you and our daughter." "Why? Why now? 6 months ago you couldn't get rid of me fast enough." "Because I was an idiot. Because I thought success and money and power were more important than love. Because I was terrified of needing someone, so I pushed away the only person who ever actually mattered." Caspian's voice cracked. "Winter, I've been miserable for 6 months. I told myself I'd made the right choice, that I was better off alone, but I wasn't. I was empty. And then I saw you tonight, standing in the cold, pregnant with my child. And I realized I don't want to be that person anymore. The cold billionaire who values spreadsheets over people. I want to be the kind of man who deserves you, the kind of father our daughter deserves." Winter was crying. "You hurt me, Caspian. You made me feel like I wasn't important, like I wasn't worth your time." "I know. And I will spend the rest of my life making up for that if you'll let me. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I'm just asking for a chance to prove I've changed, to prove I can be the partner and father you both deserve." Winter looked at him through her tears. "I don't know if I can trust you again." "Then let me earn your trust back, one day at a time. Starting now, over the next 2 days, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, Caspian showed Winter what her life could be if she let him in. He cancelled the Christmas gala and spent Christmas Eve with Winter, watching holiday movies and talking about their daughter. He asked about her pregnancy, about what she'd been through, about her fears and hopes for the future. On Christmas morning, Caspian gave Winter a gift. A key to a fully furnished, accessible apartment in a safe neighborhood with excellent schools nearby. "It's yours," he said when she stared at the key in shock. "No strings attached. Even if you decide you don't want me in your life, the apartment is yours. You and our daughter deserve to be safe and comfortable." "Caspian, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Winter, please, let me do this one thing. Let me make sure you're not living in fear every night." Winter held the key, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I love you. I've loved you since the day we met, and I was too scared and stupid to admit it. I pushed you away because I thought I could control everything, my business, my emotions, my life. But I can't control love, and I don't want to anymore. Winter, I love you. I love our daughter. And I want to be a family, if you'll give me that chance. I don't know if I can forgive you for the past 6 months. I'm not asking you to forgive me yet. I'm asking you to let me prove I've changed. Move into the apartment. Let me be there for doctor's appointments and midnight cravings and all the scary parts of becoming parents. Let me show you that I'm serious." Winter looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "Okay, but Caspian, if you do this, if you commit to this, you can't change your mind when it gets hard. Being a parent is hard." Being a partner is hard. You don't get to bail when the company needs you or when things get complicated. I won't bail, I promise. Winter, you're my priority now, you and our daughter. The company can survive without me running every detail, but I can't survive without you. Their daughter was born 6 weeks later, on a snowy February morning. Caspian was there for every moment, holding Winter's hand, coaching her breathing, crying when he first heard his daughter's cry. They named her Noelle, after the Christmas season when Caspian had found Winter again and everything had changed. During those first exhausting, beautiful weeks of new parenthood, Caspian proved himself over and over. He did midnight feedings, he changed diapers, he held Noelle for hours when she wouldn't stop crying. He supported Winter through postpartum recovery with patience and tenderness. He also restructured his entire life. He promoted his COO and stepped back from day-to-day operations. He worked from home most days so he could be present for his daughter and the woman he loved. He learned that success wasn't measured in billions of dollars, but in the smile on Winter's face when he brought her coffee in bed, in the weight of Noelle sleeping on his chest, in the family they were building together. 3 months after Noelle's birth, Caspian proposed. He did it simply at home, while Winter fed Noelle and Caspian watched them with overwhelming love. "Marry me," he said, "not because of Noelle, not because it's expected, but because I love you, because you're my home, because I spent 6 months in a penthouse feeling empty and 2 days with you in that penthouse feeling whole. Winter Ashford, will you marry me?" Winter looked at him with those amber eyes that had haunted him for 6 months. "Are you sure? Really, truly sure? Because Caspian, I can't do this if you're going to wake up one day and decide we're a distraction again." "You're not a distraction, you're everything. You're the reason I wake up, the reason I'm trying to be better. Winter, I was a fool 6 months ago. I thought I needed to be alone to be successful, but I was wrong. I need you. I need Noelle. I need this family we're building. Please say yes." Winter smiled through her tears. Yes, absolutely yes. They got married 2 months later, in a small ceremony at the apartment where Caspian had first seen Winter freezing outside the cafe. The same place where everything had fallen apart, and then, miraculously, come back together. During his vows, Caspian said, "I saw you freezing outside a cafe on December 23rd, and it melted the ice around my heart that I didn't even know was there. Winter, you saved me from a life of empty success. You showed me what actually matters. I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that you and Noelle are my priority. Not my company, not my wealth, not my pride. You, always you." During her vows, Winter said, "You broke my heart, and then you put it back together piece by showing up, by being there, by choosing us every day. Caspian, you're not the cold billionaire I fell in love with anymore. You're the warm father who rocks our daughter at 3 a.m. You're the partner who brings me coffee and asks how I'm feeling. You're the man you were always meant to be, and I'm so proud to call you mine. Because sometimes the coldest hearts can melt when confronted with the reality of what they've lost. Sometimes seeing your pregnant ex freezing on Christmas Eve is the wake-up call that changes everything. And sometimes the billionaire who thought he had everything learns that the only things worth having are the ones you can't buy: love, family, and the courage to choose people over profit every single day. And that's where our story ends today. What did you think? Did Caspian and Winter's story of a frozen heart melting at Christmas touch your heart? Let us know in the comments what your favorite moment was. If you enjoyed this story, we have so many more waiting for you. Check out our playlist for more heartwarming romance tales. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Your support means everything to us. Until next time, keep believing in love, keep believing in second chances, and remember, it's never too late to choose love over everything else. See you in the next story.